Welcome to Streaming News Network, where we deliver balanced reporting with the facts that matter. The Evening Edition by Claude McDaniel. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A Canadian woman accused of assaulting a 16-year-old girl during a confrontation on a New Jersey boardwalk is now in federal immigration custody after authorities determined she had overstayed her visa. Police say the incident happened on July 3 at the Point Pleasant Beach boardwalk. Investigators allege the 33-year-old woman confronted a group of teenagers over clothing displaying support for President Donald Trump and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Authorities say the confrontation escalated, and the suspect allegedly struck one of the teenagers. According to investigators, surveillance video and recordings made during the incident were reviewed before an arrest warrant was issued. She now faces charges that include simple assault, harassment, obstruction, and endangering the welfare of a child. Federal officials say the woman entered the United States legally in April of 2024 but remained after her visa expired in September. She is now being held at an immigration detention facility in Newark while immigration proceedings continue. Her husband, a United States citizen and social media content creator, disputes the allegations. He claims the teenagers provoked the encounter, says the surveillance footage lacks important context, and has criticized conditions at the detention center where his wife is being held. Federal officials maintain that individuals who remain in the country unlawfully and are accused of violating criminal laws may face detention and removal proceedings. The assault charges and immigration case remain pending, and no court has ruled on the allegations. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Senate Republicans have introduced a sweeping legislative package designed to combat government fraud, recover billions of taxpayer dollars, and tighten oversight of federally funded programs. The centerpiece of the proposal is legislation called the Welfare Abuse and Laundering Zillions Act, or the Walz Act, named after Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Supporters of the bill argue that the name reflects concerns over major fraud cases that occurred in Minnesota, including the widely publicized Feeding Our Future scandal. The legislation would require states to receive certain federal funds only after services have been verified as completed. It would also trigger federal investigations whenever spending in qualifying state programs increases by more than 10% over a 6-month period. The broader package includes several additional measures. One proposal would reclaim more than $65 billion in unspent pandemic relief funding. Another would extend the time available for prosecutors to pursue coronavirus relief fraud cases. Additional provisions would reward federal employees who uncover waste, prevent convicted fraudsters from receiving Small Business Administration funding, and strengthen oversight of foreign assistance programs. Another proposal would require individuals sending money overseas to certify they are not receiving public assistance, a measure supporters say is intended to prevent taxpayer-funded benefits from being transferred abroad. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, who is leading the effort, says the legislation is intended to prevent fraud before it occurs while recovering funds that have already been lost. Governor Walz's office had not publicly responded at the time of this report. The package is expected to be considered by the Senate in the coming days, though its prospects remain uncertain as lawmakers continue to debate the proposals. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A Florida woman is behind bars after authorities say she stabbed a friend during an Uber ride following an argument over drinking alcohol inside the vehicle. According to investigators, the incident happened Monday night after 32-year-old Lynn Marie Zamora and a male friend entered an Uber outside a hotel in the Miami area. Police say Zamora wanted to drink a beer while riding in the vehicle, but her friend repeatedly told her that open containers of alcohol are not permitted in Uber vehicles. Authorities allege that the disagreement quickly escalated. Investigators say Zamora removed a pair of scissors from her purse and stabbed the man twice, striking him in the arm and the leg. Police say the Uber driver immediately stopped the vehicle, exited to call emergency services, and the victim also got out of the car. He was transported to a hospital, where his injuries were treated. Officials said the wounds were not considered life-threatening. Zamora was arrested and charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. During a court hearing, prosecutors noted that she was already serving probation for a previous battery conviction involving a person 65 years of age or older and has additional assault-related convictions on her record. A judge ordered that Zamora remain in custody. Her next court appearance is scheduled for August 12. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A federal bankruptcy judge has issued several key pretrial rulings ahead of the bankruptcy trial involving former Colorado football player Shilo Sanders. The trial, scheduled for August 31, centers on whether Sanders can discharge an approximately $11.89 million civil judgment through bankruptcy. The debt stems from a 2015 incident at a Dallas area school involving former security guard John Darjean. According to court records, Darjean sued Sanders, alleging he suffered permanent injuries during an altercation after attempting to confiscate Sanders' cell phone. Sanders has maintained that he acted in self-defense. A default judgment was entered against him in 2022 after he did not appear for trial. The judge ruled that expert testimony regarding whether Sanders used reasonable force in support of his self-defense claim may be allowed. The court also limited the use of certain juvenile detention records, although statements made by Sanders at the time could still be admitted as evidence. Other requests to restrict evidence related to Sanders' disciplinary history and the timeframe of the case were denied for now, with the judge indicating those issues may be reconsidered during trial. The central question before the bankruptcy court is whether the debt resulted from what the law defines as a willful and malicious injury. If the court reaches that conclusion, the debt would likely remain enforceable. If not, Sanders could receive a bankruptcy discharge. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. The United States military has launched a new wave of strikes against Iran, marking another escalation in the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. According to U.S. Central Command, the operation began at approximately 6 o'clock Wednesday morning Eastern Time. Military officials said the strikes are intended to further degrade Iranian military capabilities that have been used to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important maritime trade routes. The latest strikes follow earlier operations targeting Iranian military infrastructure and come amid heightened tensions over security in the Persian Gulf. U.S. officials say the campaign is aimed at protecting freedom of navigation and reducing threats to international shipping. The renewed military action comes as regional instability continues to affect commercial traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a vital corridor for global energy shipments. Shipping activity has declined as security concerns grow, while the broader conflict has fueled uncertainty throughout the region. Iran has not released a detailed response to this latest round of strikes, although previous operations have prompted retaliatory military actions and heightened diplomatic tensions. This is Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. A growing family dispute is drawing renewed attention to the Duggar family following the arrest of Joseph Duggar earlier this year. During a recent podcast interview, Bob Duggar's sister, Deanna Duggar, said she believes the entire Duggar family should be investigated in light of multiple scandals that have involved members of the family over the years. Her comments come after 31-year-old Joseph Duggar was arrested in March on charges related to the alleged sexual abuse of a minor during a family trip to Florida in 2020. He also faces additional charges, including false imprisonment and child endangerment. Joseph Duggar has pleaded not guilty to all charges, and the case remains pending. Deanna Duggar said she believes family members should receive counseling and suggested that unresolved issues may have contributed to repeated allegations involving members of the family. Her daughter, Amy King, who also appeared on the family's former reality television programs, strongly criticized both Joseph Duggar and his older brother, Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar is currently serving a federal prison sentence after his conviction on child sexual abuse material charges in 2022. Amy King also said she has no interest in reconciling with her uncle, Bob Duggar, accusing him of failing to protect children. Deanna Duggar acknowledged that Bob attempted to reconcile with her at a family funeral last year, but she said any future relationship would require firm boundaries. Neither Bob Duggar nor Michelle Duggar has publicly responded to the latest remarks. The criminal case against Joseph Duggar remains ongoing, and no verdict has been reached. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A federal appeals court has temporarily reversed a recent ruling that would have required Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, to provide bond hearings within 90 days for many immigrants detained inside the United States. The decision came after federal immigration officials appealed a July 2 ruling from a 3-judge panel of the Fifth United States Circuit Court of Appeals. That earlier ruling found that prolonged detention without a bond hearing could raise constitutional concerns. With the latest order, the earlier decision has been put on hold while the court considers the case again. Oral arguments are expected in September. The legal dispute centers on the Trump administration's policy of mandatory detention for certain immigrants. According to court filings, more than 61,000 detainees nationwide have sought release or bond hearings through federal courts after the long-standing practice of providing many bond hearings was changed. Federal courts have reached differing conclusions on the issue, and some judges have continued ordering bond hearings or releases while the legal challenge moves forward. The United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear a related case during its next term, which begins in October. That decision could establish a nationwide standard governing detention and bond hearing requirements. Separately, President Donald Trump said this week that Immigration and Customs Enforcement should continue using traffic stops as an enforcement tool. His comments followed a temporary pause on many vehicle stops after 2 fatal shootings involving immigration enforcement operations. Administration officials have indicated that the pause is expected to be temporary while safety procedures are reviewed. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Plans to unveil a statue honoring the late Charlie Kirk have sparked political debate weeks before the memorial is scheduled to be displayed in New York City. According to reports, Italian sculptor Sergio Fornari plans to unveil the statue on September 10, the anniversary of Kirk's death. The artwork reportedly depicts Kirk seated while holding a microphone and is expected to be displayed in Times Square. The proposal drew attention after Democratic activist Harry Sisson commented on social media, writing that he believed the statue would not last 10 minutes in Times Square. Supporters of the memorial interpreted the remark as a prediction that the statue could be vandalized because of political divisions. Others viewed the comment as criticism of the location or as an observation about the likelihood of vandalism in a highly trafficked public space. Sisson did not elaborate on what he meant. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was killed during a public event in September of 2025. His death prompted tributes from supporters across the political spectrum, while also renewing discussions about political violence and the increasingly heated tone of public discourse in the United States. As of now, city officials have not announced any additional security measures related to the planned unveiling, and no incidents involving the proposed memorial have been reported. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Newly released Federal Bureau of Investigation records have renewed attention on a decades-old investigation involving Tony Rodham, the late brother of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The documents were released following a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed by the conservative legal organization Judicial Watch. According to the organization, the records relate to an investigation into a business venture that sought to import Romanian-made Aero sport utility vehicles into the United States. The records indicate that investigators examined whether the company involved had valid agreements to import the vehicles and whether prospective dealers had been asked to provide substantial upfront payments. Investigators also explored whether Tony Rodham may have referenced his family's political connections in connection with the business venture. The records state that investigators questioned whether the import operation was legitimate after no vehicles were ultimately brought into the United States through the company. The documents reflect investigative findings and allegations examined by federal authorities. They do not establish criminal wrongdoing by Hillary Clinton, and no charges against her resulted from the investigation. The released files also reference other past business activities involving members of the Rodham family that had previously received public attention. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said the records raise additional questions and has called for further disclosure of government documents related to the matter. Hillary Clinton has not publicly commented on the latest release of records.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and our audio reports. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.